Okay, I'm just going to share how to stipple a firearm at home for very cheap. First, you're going to need a soldering iron, and I got this one off of Amazon. It was only about $17, so it's really cheap. It's got a little temperature dial and a stand. Came with this little kit. Most of the stuff in here is for actually soldering. This one is the Anbes. And I would recommend this one. It'll stay on for hours at a time, and it's been a really good, cheap little soldering iron. But it'll come with a little pack with many different tips. I'll insert a photo of what some of these more rounded tips produce. And then I'll show you also what I have come to prefer, which is this really thin pointed tip. And that's actually how I reproduced pretty accurately the Taurus stippling. As you can see, it was just like this G2. The only stippling patches were here. And I went ahead and made, I decided on an outline and everything. Taped it off, which I'm going to show you in a second, to get my line. And then I stippled what you can see here, basically everywhere my hand makes contact. I'm going to be doing this G2 today. I already messed up a long time ago when I got started trying to do a bigger dot pattern. As you can see right here, I sanded it and melted it and tried to make it smooth. But I'm gonna completely fix that today when I go back over it with this texture here. But I'll show you the bigger dot pattern. It's not the best work. I did it on a Smith & Wesson pistol. This is definitely the pattern that I prefer now. So I'll make the rest of this quick on kind of how to do it, and if you want to copy this exact Taurus, factory stippling, this will be the way to do it. All right, so I'm just gonna basically do the same thing that I did on this G3. I'm gonna follow the same outline. I'm gonna come all the way across the front. I'm gonna leave this open so that my finger that doesn't really provide any grip isn't rubbing when I'm shooting. I'll do the front of the trigger guard and pretty much just copy this. So now I'm just gonna use some electrical tape. You can be very precise with this, or you can kind of freehand it the way that I do it. On these pistols, they already have natural lines to follow, so you really don't have to worry about being super precise. I do notice right now, just looking at it, right here, it has a natural little triangular intersection right here, whereas this one is smooth. So I have an opportunity to do a little bit more of a design on that, but I think I'm gonna go with sort of like that straight 1911 or Beretta look and keep it straight. So I'll probably just follow this line and then come back around the mag release. You won't really get to learn the technique based on how I'm about to do the outline, but at least you'll be able to see the outline done. I'm just gonna use the natural lines, like I said in the beginning. and just follow those. Again, this is not gonna be our final pattern. This is gonna blend right in, but this is gonna give us a good border. Okay, so here's how I do the Taurus style stippling. First of all, I did my borders with just sort of a simple like dot pattern, and I'm gonna blend those in when I'm done. I decided after going straight that I needed to go down and surround this mag release, and I went around all the pads. Forgot that one, so I guess I'll show you real quick. You're basically just pushing that squared off edge down with a bunch of little taps. Just kind of making it rough. So let me just show you how I do it. Basically, I'm doing a bunch of little dots, but I'm slightly scribbling the tip of the iron so that it creates that sort of swirl effect that Taurus has. And pretty much just rapid dots, no pattern. If you don't follow a pattern, you get a lot more room for error, and it ends up looking a lot more uniform. Now I'm gonna just kind of stab some deeper holes, kind of give it a little difference in depth. But as you can see, this is real time, so it doesn't take too long. I mean, it can take some time, but it goes on fairly easy. And I'm not pressing very hard. You'll know how hard you need to press when you start going. Again, around these little pins and around the mag release, you got to be careful not to push plastic in on them because it'll just make it really hard to get out. Earlier I was getting some in the, I was pushing it in the mag release, so I just kept actuating it. I would push this around like this, and then while it's hot, just actuate it. And then it dries really fast, and boom, it won't get stuck on you. So I'll pick back up in a second and show you where I'm at. Okay, I just wanted to show you again how I blend the borders. Basically, you're just gonna create your dot pattern and slightly drag the tip, and you're gonna take the circular dot or whatever type of pattern you put right up next to the border, and you're just gonna drag it right on in to the rest of it. Also, you know, there's some plastic that's kind of smoking off of there. So if you can get a light little fan blowing to blow that away from you, that would be best. Otherwise, you're gonna be basically poisoning yourself, I would imagine, breathing in the plastic. So, as you can see, like I said, it's very forgiving. It's not hard to do a good job at this, and it's really hard to mess it up. The hardest part is just getting your borders down, and I know I didn't do a really good like professional representation of how to do a border. I just used electrical tape, and I eyeballed it. But the thing is it's like a sandpaper style texture. which, you know, to the eye doesn't necessarily have like a clean edge to it. I mean, you do get clean edges, don't get me wrong. But when you're talking about like millimeters, you know, of mistake, you're not gonna notice it. Like, I know that this is a little skewed, you know, it's closer here than it is here, but hey man, from another inch away, you'd never know. And I'm not big on vanity for it, you know, I think, yeah, it looks nice and everything, but it's the functionality that I really appreciate. So get the pointed soldering iron tip, just like this one, and heat it up to about, this one says it's heated up to like 350-ish, 325, but some people said that that's not really accurate in the reviews for this. You'll know when it's not hot enough. It will be really hard. Like right now I can just kind of fly through this, but if it wasn't hot enough, it would take me longer because I'd have to press harder. And when it's too hot, you'll know, because then you're just melting it around. Like, you'll notice it's really melting it. But practice on, here, let me show you what you can practice on. This was like a piece of this was a piece of plastic that I got off of something. I don't know, but you know, I did all sorts of practicing on this thing. Practice on some plastic like that first, maybe a foam case or something. Anything plastic really would work. And I have learned that polymers are different. Like for instance, I did a Smith & Wesson and I was able to use this big dot pattern. And when I tried it on this Taurus, it was horrible. It made it really sharp, and it was just ugly. This polymer is much harder than that Smith & Wesson's polymer was. So there will be some differences in your practice material and what you're actually gonna put it on. But start soft, start small, because if you really mess it up, you can sand it down. Like, you can sand it completely smooth. Some people take Dremels and they use like a Dremel tool. For instance, on the Glocks, they'll grind down the little finger grooves. Okay, I'm just finishing up, so if you enjoy watching the process, I just have a little bit left to go. And I'll do a quick recap on what I did. Sorry if this wasn't really, you know, a how-to, like a step-by-step. Pretty much if you're gonna look into stippling your gun, you know, how-to is gonna be done by your own practice. You're gonna need to practice on some random plastic that you have around the house. This was mainly to show you how to do the Taurus style stippling, because I can't explain it, you know. I can show you how to do it, and I really can't even explain to you what I'm doing, other than like I'm just doing really rapid circular scribble dots. I mean, that's the best way that I can describe it. And then when my hand gets going in the rhythm, I can do it pretty fast and efficiently. It's pretty fun and enjoyable for me. And like I said, I think it serves a pretty cool purpose as far as the grip. And for a $200 or $150 service, you know, you can get this done at a shop, but on a $200 or $180 Taurus pistol, whose wife is gonna let them spend another $200 to get some fancy dots put on there? So for 17 bucks, you can purchase this soldering iron kit off of Amazon or any other one. I mean, it doesn't have to be this one. You can get a really good soldering iron. Oh, one thing I'll recommend, you see how long this soldering iron is? The grip's all the way back here. If you ever tried to draw something with a pencil and you held it way back here, you probably wouldn't do such a good job. You really want one you can grip closer to the hot part. And so this one's taken some getting used to for me. I had to use it, you know, a lot and get the shakes out. But I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up here. I don't wanna drag you guys along, you know, just watching me put dots on this. But I'll do a brief recap on the steps, and I'll let you just kind of watch the technique a little bit longer. These are my favorite parts in between here because it just is so easy, it goes so fast. Okay, so I'm finishing up here. I'm just gonna need to check it over for any bare spots or any spots that need to be tweaked a little. And I'll check my edges to see if I can kind of straighten anything out or... Oh, and actually I'm gonna do the little thumbprints on there too, so... if you're still watching this part here, I'm sure you just enjoy watching this happen. Otherwise, you know, hopefully you got what you needed out of this. Okay, so I'm just gonna be looking for any little imperfections that I can touch up and blend in. Sometimes I make it worse, but then you just have to fix it twice. And it helps to look at this in different lighting too. It'll expose different little spots that you missed or that you need to blend. Oh, Taurus missed a spot. Okay. Well, there's the grip. All right, there it is. I finished it up just like the G3. I added the front trigger guard and the two little finger ledges. This one turned out pretty good. I had to repair something right here. I had some big dots, so those big dots still bled through. But overall, it came out pretty clean and consistent. Very similar to the G3. But again, just a quick recap. You just want to decide what type of edges you want to do. You know, some people like the entire gun done. Or if you want to leave some space so that your hand doesn't rub, or your finger, you know, just mark it off with some tape, eyeball it, measure it, however you want to do to make sure it's straight. And then do your borders. After your borders, you can just do that technique that I showed you, and you should be able to reproduce that Taurus stippling pretty well. There you go.